Hello, families. How are you guys doing today? Today, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about chores. Right. In parenting, we generally teach our children how to participate in the family and how to grow to a higher level of accountability through expecting chores. And chores are something that most families have that start at a pretty young age. Age-appropriate things for like a 4-year-old would be putting the silverware away from the dishwasher, right? Or helping mommy put the placemats out at dinner time, right? So we start when they're really, really little. And then as they get into those teen years, it could be anything from like mowing the lawn, helping clean the house, doing laundry, like pre-adult type stuff, right? My name is Brooke Fremouw. I'm a certified trauma support specialist. What the heck is that? Well, it means that the 11 beautiful, incredible, amazing children that God has entrusted me with are adopted kiddos. And that means they come with some history, right? And because of that history, things are a little different in the way in which they perceive the world. And not only is their perception a little bit different, but their body chemistries are different because of adoption trauma. Sometimes kids' adoption trauma isn't just at birth. Sometimes adoption trauma actually exists because they were traumatized even after they were born through the forms of neglect, abuse, or abandonment, and then placed into our adoptive homes. And so these kiddos come with some unique sets of needs, some unique ideas and expectations out of life, some unique self-image, right? They look at themselves different than kids who haven't had adoption trauma. And so I have furthered my education in the world of trauma and in the world of parenting. And I have both clinical expertise as well as 11 kids that I got to experiment on. Sorry, older kids. I'm so sorry. All that to be said, today I want to talk to you about chores. I want to talk to you about the struggle, right? And I think here's the thing. If you are a parent at all, you know that chores are typically a struggle. Matter of fact, I remember being a kid, and I remember one time I came home, and I was one of those kids that was really emotionally connected to my mom. I didn't want to disappoint her. I wanted to make sure that I was pleasing to her from the time that I was very, very little. And I came home, and there was a note taped to my door. Not sure if Post-it notes existed back then. I'm not sure. In any event, there was a note taped to my door, and it said, "Brooke, you're a pig. Your room is constantly a pigsty. I ask and I ask and I ask. And when you clean your room, you shove things in your closet, you shove it under your bed. It is not clean. And when you are an adult, this is not functional." And I remember I took the note and I went onto my bed and I just cried and I cried and I cried. Chores are a struggle. I wasn't adopted, and yet, right? Who wants to forsake playing and doing fun games, watching television and chilling out after a long day at school, right? Who wants to miss out on that for cleaning, for picking up dog poo, right? Who wants to, when you could, watch America's Funniest Home Videos with your family on the couch, do dishes? So kids, they don't do a great job, and they look for shortcuts or ways in which they can just ignore it altogether. But guess what, guys? If you are an adoptive family, it's to a different level. I want to tell you guys a story. This isn't exactly a chore, but it's just about a generalized expectation. I was explaining to my mother-in-law back when she was doing some respite providing for us, and our kids were, first grade, second grade, right around there. And I was explaining how frustrating it is because every single day it is the same ask. Can I get an amen on that? You're like, yeah, the same ask every single day. And it's exhausting, right? And I said, just simple things like their shoes. They walk in, they kick them off. And there's 4 of them. So there's 8 shoes just like all over the floor. And then there's backpacks just dropped at the door, right? And then they pull out papers, they throw off their lunch bags, and it's literally like a tornado landed. ruining the sanctity that I had created in that space prior to picking them up, right? It's like, holy cow, how many times can I have the exact same conversation? And my mother-in-law was really like, I will show you that you don't know what you're doing. I love it when people look in on the outside and are like, you don't have your stuff together as a mother. And I think to myself, like, yeah, back in the first few kids, I took that personally, right? I was like, wow, gosh, maybe I really don't have this figured out. And then I realized, like, most people cannot relate to what it's like parenting these kiddos, right? So day number 1, she picks the kids up from school. And as they get closer to the house, she says, now when we get home, we're going to take our jackets and we're going to take our shoes and we're going to run up to our closets. We're going to put them away. Then we're going to take our lunch boxes and put them on the counter. Okay, tell me what I just said. She had them repeat it back. She was like, awesome. She pulls in, kids unload from the car, run in the house, and by the time Nana made it into the house, guess what had happened? The same tornado. You know it. You know it. And she was like, I don't get it. Like, they repeated it back to me. They knew. But we come home. And so she reminded them, guys, where do your shoes go? Where do your jackets go? Where do your lunch boxes go? And certainly they were like, got it, Nana. Got it, Nana. See, their hearts weren't defiant. They just simply forgot. And so the next day, she prompted them. And then right as she pulled into the driveway, now kids, when you get out of the car, go straight to your room with your jacket and your shoes. Okay, Nana. And off they went. And guess what? Yep, same tornado. So here's the deal. Some of my kids are special needs. That's true. And it is challenging to get them to follow through on very basic requests, right? But it isn't defiance. And that's the part that's important. That's the part where we've got to go, okay, listen, let's prompt them. Let's remind them. Let's continue to go for the ask. And then let's reward when they do remember to do it. So the things that I have found is that little people do not have intrinsic motivation, right? They can't look through their moral compass, reason through all of the cause and effects that would come from based off of different choices that they would make given the expectations, and then look at all of those and say, I am a person of good moral character, therefore. It's not how it works, right? That doesn't develop until people are in their teen years, and then that's where it starts to develop most typically. But with adopted children, oftentimes that's delayed. So you need extrinsic motivators. So what does that look like, right? It looks like setting expectations, keeping them small and attainable, and establishing quick success that motivates them that they actually can succeed. And literally saying, for kids who remember their shoes and remember their jackets, you're going to get a sticker. And you get 3 stickers in a row and we're going to froyo, right? It's those kinds of things that will incentivize the child. Please remember, please remember, please remember. And then they're going to remember. Maybe on day 2, they don't. And they got to start back over it. 0 stickers, trying to get 3 in a row. But they're highly motivated in order to remember and establish the new pattern and the new habit. How does that apply to chores? Glad you asked. So in our household, when chores were for little humans, little people, I actually would go to Google and type in free black and white clip art. And then I would type in what it was, the clip art that I wanted. So it could be a piece of clothing. It could be a bunch of toys. It could be a can of dog food. So whatever their chore is, I would get a visual image and then I would print that free clip art and laminate it. Then I would have an actual page that had, let's say, the 4 chores on it. So the morning chore might be putting on your clothes and brushing your teeth. So I'd have the clip art of like the shirt and the toothbrush, right? And then after school could be your lunchbox, putting your lunchbox in the sink, right? And then after dinner, you're going to be the one who feeds the puppies. And then at nighttime, it would be brushing your teeth before bed. So I would have a page with the images on it. And then that same page, cut it into 4 pieces, laminating all of it, and then putting Velcro pieces on one side on the actual laminate page that isn't cut. And then the other pieces would have the other fuzzy part, right? And so the kids literally would be like, don't forget your chore chart. And then the kids would do the chore, pull this out of a paper pocket, stick it on to the chore chart when they completed it. And when their entire chore chart was done at the end of the day, that's where they would get the sticker. So many stickers would equal a prize. And what happens is then it becomes fun. It's like a game, right? It's like a competition. Who wants to play the quiet game? Not any child in their right mind actually wants to sit and be quiet. But when you add a game and a competition to it, all of a sudden they're like, I'm going to beat you, right? And they're willing to participate in the quiet game. So this is similar in concept. Now, as the kids get older, hopefully you've been sowing the seeds in them all along the way. And so the payoff changes, basically. The chores, they get a little higher, and the reward gets a little higher. Now, in our household, we do not any longer pay or give attaboys or rewards for doing chores. My kids are now all in the teen age from 10 on up. And so chores are what we do to contribute to the household, and they understand that. And so what happens is if they don't do their chores, then they don't get their special freedom the next day. So for my teenagers, that means your hygiene is done and your chores are done, and you get your phone the next day. Your hygiene's not done and your chores are not done, there's no phone the next day. And as long as I'm consistent with it, guess what? They're consistent with performing. But the day in which I lose consistency, all of a sudden, we've got greasy hair and there's dog stuff scattered all across the yard. And I'm like, what's going on? Yeah. Whoops. Right? So it takes consistency on both parts. For the 10-year-old, there's a lot of reminding. For the teenagers, there's not. And what happens with our kiddos is that they spend a lot of time. And if you're familiar with any of my videos, go back, if you're not, and watch the first time obedience video. And why first time obedience is really hard for trauma kids. You don't spend a lot of time in your thinking brain when you're a trauma kid. You spend time in your emotional bank. And so what that means is that a lot of times things don't process quickly and fully like they would with a non-adopted kiddo. So what that means is extra reminders are not a bad thing. They're not a bad thing. And what we want to do is incentivize them to remember as they come into higher levels of maturity. Let me give you an example of that. I had a girl's bedroom situation that was all upstairs, and then the main house and the boys' rooms were downstairs at the house that we used to live at. And so one of the kiddos was just known for running down the stairs, leaving the door wide open and the light on. And she'd go and plop on the couch. And I would say, light, door. Never an ounce of hesitation. Sweet kiddo. Learned, like, this is after we'd been working on all of the other skills that bring peace and calm into the home. And I definitely have that going on. So I didn't get the back talk. I didn't get any of those things. She'd just get up. She'd sometimes be slightly irritated by it. But she'd go and flip off the light switch, close the door, come back to the couch. So that was good. That was a win. I got what I needed, right? The problem is that as she was getting older, I knew she was capable of it, but she wasn't motivated to remember. So I had to pair a negative consequence with that in order for her to be able to get motivated to learn. So I'd say, okay, you got to go close the door 10 times every time you forget. And then we would count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's opening and closing the door. She's looking at me like, this is ridiculous. And I'm like, it is. You're right. Totally is. But it's going to help you to remember. And sure enough, she had to open and close the door here 10 times for maybe about a week and a half. And that door became closed and the light switch was off, right? And it wasn't ever a source of contention. I didn't allow it to upset me because I recognized it was not intentional. She wasn't being defiant. She's forgetful. She's absent-minded. And that's okay. She doesn't choose to be forgetful and absent-minded. So I have grace in that space and then use them as teaching moments. So let's remember that ultimately, the reason that we have chores are to teach our children how to become higher levels of accountability and higher levels of raising them into adulthood for independence, right? So that they value the environment, they value relationship. That's the reason we do chores. So chores are about teaching. They are about helping our children to rise up to the next level and become higher and higher levels, right? All right, guys. Hopefully this was a little bit helpful for you. Again, this is geared towards adoptive families, and yet I think it's helpful for all families because all kids do struggle with this. But what I do is I work with adoptive families and help them take the chaos that is in their hearts and in their homes and exchange that for peace and open, solid communication, right? Take the tornado and calm it down into some smooth waters. If that is something that you are needing, I am changing platforms right now and moving from one-on-one, which has been very fruitful, but also very intense. And 100% of my time, energy, and all of my interaction with clients is moving to an online format. I'd love to get you some more information about that. So if you're interested, please reach out or visit at thetraumamama.com. Mama is M-A-M-A. So thetraumamama.com. And we will see you there. Thanks so much. God bless.